What impact does this have, if any, among primary voters? Here to talk about that and more is roll call columnist Jon Allen and senior political editor Steve Chaggairs. It's nice to see you both today. Steve, when I'm looking at the reaction to the debate on Saturday, it looks like the Republican insiders are appalled that anybody would dare take on George W. Bush's record with regards to terrorism in South Carolina, especially a big military state, and still people who would defend Bush's record on that front. What do you make of the strategy of Donald Trump?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, he did try to sort of soften his comments on the Sunday shows yesterday. But I also was thinking about this before we came on here, and I was thinking that Donald Trump has said some more offensive things about others who are considered highly regarded within the Republican Party, whether it's John McCain or Megyn Kelly on Fox News, and it really hasn't hurt him very much. So I just wonder if maybe this sort of narrative that him going after George W. Bush, who is highly regarded in South Carolina, but generally whose presidency isn't viewed as one of the greatest Republican presidents, even by Republicans in the history of the United States. I just wonder if we're maybe overrating the impact that Trump's comments are going to have. I mean, if you look at a poll that we put out after the debate, Trump came in second place to Rubio as to who did best in the debate. So, I mean, I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm always skeptical of endorsements, too, and how powerful or influential they are. But a former president coming out and not only endorsing you, but out there on the stump and addressing it and allowing himself to be part of radio and now television ads. John, will that have the potential to influence those who might otherwise be supporting Trump? Is it enough?
Well, I think certainly some of those who might be supporting other candidates, it's possible. I think that's why we're seeing Donald Trump go after George W. Bush. This is a classic strategy of taking somebody else's strength and fighting them on that ground. So Jeb Bush's strength is that his brother, the former president, is a pretty powerful validator. I think most of the Republican Party for many years said that George W. Bush kept the country safe after 9/11, what Jeb Bush was saying during that debate, what Donald Trump was challenging in that debate. And I think fighting on that ground elevates Donald Trump to the level of being in a debate with President Bush rather than Jeb Bush. It gives him an opportunity to kind of fight back. That said, Jeb Bush's game in South Carolina is not to beat Donald Trump, but simply to do well enough to beat some of the other candidates. And I think his brother is potentially very effective in doing that.
I'd like to add, too, Contessa, that what's going to be interesting is this was really supposed to be a day about George W. Bush and Jeb Bush. And if you don't think now that Donald Trump's comments are going to be part of that narrative and that discussion, taking a little bit of attention away from Jeb Bush's day, I mean, that's part of this plan, too. It's sort of the brilliance of what Donald Trump does is he really just sort of takes the oxygen.
And there's just a week to go between the debate and when the Republicans go to the primary to vote. We saw this battle erupt during the debate stage, and not just among Ted Cruz and Donald Trump, but the battle has bled over now into a real war, if you will. I mean, they've taken off the gloves and gotten out of the ring, and they're turning this into a street brawl between, well, Donald Trump. I mean, Ted Cruz is ostensibly, at least with his words, taking the high road. What do you think, Steve? I mean, does this have the power to sway voters to one candidate or the other, or just turn them off altogether?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. The poll that we put out this week in the Battleground Tracker showed that 52% of Republican primary voters in South Carolina have used the debates to help shape their vote. So the debates are definitely important. I think what you're seeing, you saw the pressure really being on the candidates who are not Donald Trump, and they really went after him aggressively because they see the polls showing Trump running strong in South Carolina. They see him basically crushing everybody else in New Hampshire last week, and they know that they only have a very short amount of time to try to change minds going into South Carolina. This is a very compressed schedule now after New Hampshire, and there was not a lot of time spent campaigning in South Carolina, so they have a small amount of time to convince voters to change their minds before Saturday's primary. And then they also understand that if they don't slow this Trump train down before Saturday, then it's going to be much, much harder because the momentum is going to really be behind Trump after having won big in New Hampshire and then winning in South Carolina. So there's just a lot of pressure on Cruz and Rubio and Bush and all of them, frankly, to just try to slow Trump down.
So, Steve, we still don't have a good sense of how the debate may have influenced people because that Battleground Tracker poll was done before the debate. Okay, But the CBS News poll shows when we ask people who won the debate, Marco Rubio comes out way on top. 32% here say that he won, ahead of 24% who think Donald Trump came out as the winner there. Marco Rubio had had a tough debate in New Hampshire. A lot of people thought that that's why he saw himself fall when it came to primary voters turning out for him. What's your prediction, Jon Allen, maybe you can weigh in here, on whether this influences the trajectory for Marco Rubio heading into Saturday?
I think it certainly reassures his supporters who were worried after that New Hampshire debate a week earlier. I thought Marco Rubio handled himself very well. He did things like coming back at the moderator and touching on something the moderator had just said to show that what he was saying wasn't pre-planned or pre-packaged, that he was able to get off of his talking points a little bit. And then he landed a couple of good zingers on some of the other candidates, even being or appearing to be fairly spontaneous. I think it will reassure some of Marco Rubio's voters, and I think it might give some folks who had started leaning in the direction of other candidates a reason to give Marco Rubio a second chance. I'm not sure how much the debates actually end up influencing the final votes as opposed to the other inputs that candidates have with voters, but certainly Marco Rubio, I think, was roundly seen as having a great debate the other night.
And clearly a lot of people watched because it was the most watched GOP debate of a season that has been full of spectacular ratings for these political debates.